Not all scars are written on skin. Some are etched into the earth itself. Scars of fire, cruelty, and secrecy. Scars that transform ordinary towns, prisons, and buildings into disturbing reminders that the past is never truly gone, and that some places should never have been built at all. Across America, there are sites where the ground itself seems to resist forgiveness, where silence weighs heavier than sound, and where history lingers not as memory, but as presence. And when you step into them, it feels as though you are intruding upon a chapter that was never meant to be read by the living. Centralia, Pennsylvania, the town on fire. Beneath the quiet hills of Pennsylvania, a fire has been burning for more than 60 years, an invisible inferno that turned a once thriving community into a skeletal husk of what it once was. In 1962, a spark from a coal seam ignited a blaze underground, and what should have been a minor accident instead unleashed a disaster that could not be stopped. The fire spread endlessly through the coal veins beneath the town, creating sinkholes that swallowed streets, vents that exhaled toxic smoke, and cracks that ripped the pavement apart like a nightmare version of an earthquake frozen in time. One by one, families abandoned their homes as the government bought out the properties and demolished them, until only a handful of stubborn residents remained in a ghostly landscape of empty blocks and fading memories. Walking through Centralia today is like stepping into a world that should not exist, a place that appears calm at first glance, but hides beneath it a living monster of heat and poison, a reminder that the earth itself can betray the people who live upon it. And the most disturbing part is that the fire still rages today, burning deeper and deeper, and experts believe it could continue for another 200 years, long after everyone who once called Centralia home is gone. Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Louisville, Kentucky. On the outskirts of Louisville sits a hulking building of brick and shadow, once considered a beacon of medical hope, but now remembered as a monument to despair. Waverly Hills Sanatorium was built in the early 1900s during the tuberculosis epidemic, a time when the disease was a death sentence for countless families. Over the years, tens of thousands of patients entered its doors seeking healing, yet far too many never left, their lives cut short in dimly lit rooms filled with fear, coughing, and the constant rattle of death. The most chilling feature of Waverly Hills is the so-called body chute, a hidden tunnel sloping down the hillside where the deceased were quietly transported, so that the living patients would not see how many of their fellow sufferers had succumbed. Behind the facade of treatment and science, there was an unspoken acknowledgement that this place had become a factory of death, a place where suffering echoed endlessly through its hallways. Today, as visitors walk its corridors, they report shadowy figures slipping from room to room, sudden chills as though unseen hands brush past them, and disembodied voices that whisper from the darkness as if the patients of long ago never truly found release. Waverly Hills is more than a haunted hospital. It is a reminder of how thin the line is between care and cruelty, between hope and hopelessness, and how the walls of certain places never forget what they have witnessed. LaLaurie Mansion, New Orleans, Louisiana. In the heart of the French Quarter, surrounded by the charm of New Orleans' historic streets, stands a mansion that hides a history of unimaginable horror. At first glance, it is beautiful, its facade a graceful reminder of 19th century wealth. But behind its elegant walls, Madame Delphine LaLaurie crafted a house of human suffering that shocked the nation when its secrets were revealed in 1834. When fire broke out in the mansion, rescuers forced their way inside and discovered enslaved people chained, mutilated, and tortured in ways too disturbing to fully comprehend. The cruelty was not random but deliberate, systematic, and monstrous. And even in a time when slavery itself was a brutal reality, the horrors of LaLaurie's actions stunned an already hardened society. She fled the city in disgrace, but her house remained, its very walls saturated with the memory of screams, pain, and the absolute depths of human cruelty. To this day, the LaLaurie Mansion is regarded as one of the most terrifying places in America, not because of spectral legends alone, but because its disturbing legacy is carved from very real suffering that cannot be dismissed as imagination. Visitors describe overwhelming dread, strange apparitions, and the sense that the house itself resists peace. as though the echoes of what happened inside will never truly die. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, Weston, West Virginia. Rising like a fortress of stone in the hills of West Virginia, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum is one of the largest hand-cut stone masonry buildings in America, but its beauty is deceiving, for within its walls thousands of souls endured unthinkable suffering. Built in the mid-1800s, the asylum was intended to house 250 patients, yet at its peak it held more than 2,000, crammed into overcrowded halls where order collapsed into chaos. Patients endured starvation, abuse, and neglect, while crude treatments such as electroshock therapy and lobotomies were inflicted with terrifying regularity, leaving many broken not only in body but in spirit. The institution became less a hospital and more a warehouse for the unwanted, a place where society deposited its outcasts and then looked away, indifferent to what happened next. Today, its massive halls stand eerily silent, yet the atmosphere remains heavy with anguish, as though the walls themselves remember the cries of those who were trapped inside. Visitors often describe feelings of unease that build into terror, seeing figures pacing at the ends of corridors, and hearing the faint sounds of screams carried through air that has not known comfort in generations. The Trans-Allegheny Asylum is disturbing not only for what is rumored to linger there, but because it represents a darker truth about how the forgotten and vulnerable were treated, abandoned to a system that offered no escape. Alcatraz Island, San Francisco, California. Rising from the cold waters of San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz is known around the world as the Rock, a prison built to crush the human spirit. For decades, it housed the most notorious criminals in America, men like Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly, and Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz. Yet the island itself was perhaps the cruelest inmate of all. Isolated by freezing waters and strong currents, escape was thought to be impossible, and those who tried were either recaptured or lost forever to the bay. Inside, the prison cells were small, damp, and suffocating, while solitary confinement reduced men to madness, leaving them broken and hollow shells of who they once were. Guards and inmates alike reported strange experiences, from whispers in the empty corridors to the sound of footsteps echoing long after curfew, as if the prison itself was alive. Even today, when tourists wander its halls, the atmosphere remains oppressive, a weight pressing down as though the building remembers every punishment, every desperate escape, and every violent act committed within its walls. Alcatraz is disturbing not just because of the legends of haunting, but because it embodies the cruelty of isolation, the stripping away of humanity until only shadows remain. Denver International Airport, Denver, Colorado. Unlike the crumbling ruins of abandoned towns or the rotting corridors of forgotten asylums, the Denver International Airport is alive and bustling, yet it may be one of the most disturbing places of all. From the moment it opened in 1995, it has been shrouded in mystery and conspiracy, its sprawling grounds covering more than 50 square miles, making it the largest airport in the United States. But it is not the size alone that unsettles visitors. It is the unsettling artwork, the bizarre architecture, and the countless rumors of what lies beneath. Murals inside the terminals show apocalyptic imagery, soldiers in gas masks, forests on fire, and grieving children, paintings that feel more like visions of the end of the world than decorations for weary travelers. From the air, the runways have been said to form the shape of a swastika, fueling speculation that the design was intentional, a sinister symbol hiding in plain sight. Outside the airport stands the towering blue horse statue known as Lucifer, its glowing red eyes watching over everyone who enters, a creature that already claimed one life when it fatally crushed its sculptor during construction. Perhaps most disturbing of all are the endless tunnels and underground chambers rumored to exist beneath the surface, leading to speculation of secret bunkers, hidden government facilities, and shelters for the elite in the event of global catastrophe. The Denver airport feels less like a gateway for travel and more like a stage for something concealed, an unsettling reminder that not all disturbing places are abandoned. Some are functioning parts of everyday life that hide their secrets in plain sight. Across America, there are places where the past refuses to stay buried, places where the air feels different, where tragedy clings like fog, and where silence is louder than any voice. Some disturb us because of the cruelty that unfolded within their walls, others because of the endless suffering they witnessed, and still others because of the mysteries and secrets they continue to conceal. They remind us that history is not always triumphant, that some places are stained forever, and that when we walk into them, we are not just stepping into buildings, towns, or airports. We are stepping into chapters of a story that is still being written in shadow. And if you ever find yourself standing in one of these places, remember this: sometimes the most terrifying thing is not the ghosts of the dead, but the truths that the living would rather forget. Beneath our cities, forests, and mountains lies a hidden world carved not by man's hand alone, but by time, nature, and perhaps something older, something forgotten. In this shadow domain of stone and silence, ancient civilizations once walked, rituals were performed, and secrets were buried so deep they were never meant to return to the light. These are not mere caves or tunnels. They are gateways to forbidden places where history is soaked in blood, myth, and the unknown. Today, we journey below the surface into the Earth's hidden secrets, through the most mysterious and forbidden caves and tunnels ever discovered. Prepare yourself for darkness, wonder, and the chilling thought that some places are hidden for a reason. In the heart of Cappadocia, Turkey, lies a sprawling underground metropolis known as Derinkuyu, a place so vast and intricate it could house over 20,000 souls deep beneath the earth. Carved directly into soft volcanic rock, this city descends nearly 200 feet and contains everything from stables and schools to wine cellars, kitchens, and churches, entire communities hidden from sight. Massive stone doors could be rolled into place to seal off passageways, creating a stronghold that no enemy could enter, and from which no one could escape. What drove its builders to live like moles in the ground? Fear of invasion, natural disaster, or some ancient terror we've long since forgotten? Many chambers remain unexcavated, their purpose unknown, and their silence speaking louder than any ruins above ground. Some believe Derinkuyu is but one node in a vast subterranean network, connecting multiple underground cities through hidden tunnels, forming a secret civilization beneath Anatolia. Even today, not all passages have been mapped, and the further you go, the less light and logic you'll find. Beneath the forests of Kentucky winds the longest known cave system on Earth, Mammoth Cave, stretching over 400 miles and still expanding with each new expedition. This subterranean labyrinth holds more than just ancient rock. It contains Native American burial sites, graffiti from lost explorers, and stories whispered across generations. Some areas of the cave are so dark and silent that they distort your sense of time and sound, causing hallucinations and panic even in seasoned explorers. Reports of disappearances, strange sounds, and flickering lights have long haunted this place, turning scientific curiosity into cautious retreat. Historians speak of enslaved guides who mapped its depths by lantern light, never returning from certain expeditions, their names remembered only in fading journal entries and cave etchings. Deeper still, rumors persist of underground rivers that pull you in and never return your body, of airless pockets where even flame dies in silence. And while tourists walk designated paths, beyond those railings lies a living darkness that does not welcome visitors. It waits for them. Hidden deep within the jungle of Belize, shrouded by vines and ancient stone, lies a sacred cave with a name that chills the blood. Aktun Tunichil Muknal, the Cave of the Stone Sepulchre. To enter this cave, one must swim through narrow flooded passages and crawl through twisting stone arteries that feel like the body of the earth itself. The Maya considered this place a portal to Xibalba, the underworld, and they did not enter it lightly, for within its echoing chambers, they offered blood to the gods. Inside, perfectly preserved skeletons rest where they fell, their bones calcified by minerals over the centuries, ritual sacrifices frozen in eternal agony. The most haunting of these remains is the Crystal Maiden, a young girl whose bones shimmer with a ghostly luster, her arms outstretched as if pleading for release. Artifacts remain untouched, ceramic vessels, obsidian blades, and ritual stones, all evidence of a civilization's desperate attempt to appease forces beyond their control. Every visitor walks over sacred ground here, breathing the same air that once carried prayers to gods of death and darkness. Even guides speak in hushed tones, knowing that the cave listens and remembers. Towering above Northern California, the snow-capped peak of Mount Shasta hides more than volcanic majesty. It conceals an ancient mystery deep within its bones. Beneath the mountain, vast lava tubes twist and turn, born from molten fury long cooled into obsidian veins, dark and hollow as a forgotten tomb. Some come for geology, but many come for legend. For Mount Shasta is said to be home to the last remnants of Lemuria, a lost civilization that vanished beneath the waves. They say the Lemurians retreated underground before the Great Flood, and that their descendants still dwell in the tunnels, bathed in inner earth light, watching silently. Strange sightings persist, of glowing beings, mechanical hums deep underground, and portals that vanish once seen. Hikers speak of lost time, of finding themselves in unfamiliar locations with no memory of how they arrived, as if the mountain itself reshuffled reality around them. The air within the tubes carries a strange charge, and even wildlife avoids some areas as if sensing something unnatural within. Whatever lies beneath Mount Shasta, it is not simply rock. It is legacy, myth, and a warning dressed in snow and stone. In northern Zimbabwe, beyond dry savanna and scrubland, a sinkhole opens suddenly to reveal a jewel of impossible beauty. The Shinhoyi Caves. A crystalline blue lake rests at the center of these limestone caverns, its depths unknown, its clarity rivaled only by its danger. Known as the Pool of the Fallen, the site carries a bloody past. Local lore tells of warriors, rebels, and innocents thrown into its depths as offerings or punishments. Divers have tried to map the bottom, but many have never returned, their bodies swallowed by the cave's perfect, merciless silence. The water is so clear that visibility stretches for over 50 meters, creating the illusion that the pool is shallower than it is, drawing in the unwary. Underwater tunnels branch out from the main chamber, twisting unpredictably, and once you enter them, you are at the mercy of the cave. No one knows what lies at the bottom, only that it takes and it keeps. At the edge of the Colorado Plateau, beneath the windswept mesa of Dulce, New Mexico, rumors swirl of an underground base unlike any other. Locals speak of strange lights in the sky, of cattle mutilations, and of black-suited agents warning them to forget what they've seen. According to former military insiders, Archuleta Mesa houses a vast subterranean facility built in secret, connecting levels of laboratories, hangars, and containment chambers. These aren't just stories of Cold War paranoia. They speak of hybrid experiments, human-alien cloning, and a violent conflict that once erupted in the deepest levels of the tunnels. One man claimed to have survived the firefight, describing energy weapons, biological horrors, and sealed doors behind which unspeakable things waited. The entrances are said to be hidden behind camouflage, guarded by electromagnetic fields and armed patrols that answer to no known agency. If it's real, the Dulce base is more than a military secret. It's a new underworld entirely, hidden in plain sight, yet unreachable by ordinary means. And if it's not real, then why has the area been restricted, surveilled, and cloaked in silence for decades? Nestled in the cliffs near Naples, Italy, lies an ancient stone passage whose very existence merges myth with masonry, the Cave of the Sibyl. This place, spoken of in Virgil's Aeneid, was believed to be the gateway to the underworld, guarded by a priestess known as the Sibyl of Cumae. Here, travelers would come to ask their fates, and the Sibyl, possessed by Apollo, would deliver cryptic prophecies in a trance beneath the earth. The passage itself is triangular in shape, descending with eerie precision, and many chambers remain sealed or collapsed, their contents lost to time or buried on purpose. Archaeologists uncovered inscriptions warning intruders to turn back, and the air within the cave remains thick, almost sacred in its silence. Whether myth or reality, the energy in the stone feels old. Older than Rome, older than Greece, perhaps older than civilization itself. It is a threshold between our world and something older, something deeper, something that still echoes in the dark. Beneath the rolling green hills of West Wycombe lies a place built for pleasure, but remembered in fear. The Hellfire Caves. Constructed in the 1740s by Sir Francis Dashwood, these man-made tunnels stretch nearly a quarter-mile underground, their walls etched with symbols, their chambers designed for secrecy. The notorious Hellfire Club held their gatherings here, orgies of power, ritual, and rebellion that blurred the lines between jest and genuine occult practice. Visitors today walk past the banqueting hall, the inner temple, and the altar room, chambers steeped in sulfur, shadow, and whispered names of the damned. Witnesses claim to have seen figures lurking in torchlight, heard disembodied whispers, and felt invisible hands graze their skin. Some say the tunnels twist in ways that aren't possible, returning explorers to their starting point no matter which direction they take. Though open to the public, several areas remain closed. Unexplained cave-ins, strange energy readings, and unspoken reasons keep them locked behind iron gates. The deeper you go, the more the air thickens, and whether you believe in ghosts, demons, or the power of human fear, the Hellfire Caves will make you believe in something. The Earth holds many wonders, but not all of them are meant to be found. These forbidden caves and tunnels are reminders that mystery still lives, not in the stars, but beneath our very feet. They are tombs of the ancient world, laboratories of the unimaginable, portals to myth, and graveyards of truth. Some hold secrets too dangerous to reveal, while others are simply waiting for someone foolish enough to go deeper. But remember, what is hidden is often hidden for a reason.
There are places on this planet where curiosity hits a wall, where locked gates, warning signs, and invisible boundaries remind us that not every mystery is ours to solve. These are the places where governments say no entry, where ancient traditions draw the line, and where even nature itself defends its secrets with deadly force. We journey across continents and time to uncover 10 of the most forbidden places on Earth. Locations whispered about in conspiracy forums, veiled in government silence, and sealed off to all but the rarest few. North Sentinel Island, a 60,000-year-old standoff. Picture an Eden so untouched that even satellite images look like a stock photo of paradise, and yet the moment you land, it becomes the most hostile square mile on Earth. North Sentinel Island is home to the Sentinelese, a hunter-gatherer tribe believed to have lived here, uninterrupted, since the last ice age. Their language is unclassified, their population may be only a few dozen, and their desire for isolation crystal clear. Approach within 3 nautical miles and the Indian Navy will turn you around. Ignore the patrols, and the Sentinelese themselves will greet you with arrows, spears, and a lethal accuracy honed over millennia. In 2006, 2 drifting crab harvesters learned that the hard way. Experts warned that even a handshake could wipe the tribe out. One modern flu strain would be an apocalypse. So the Indian government enforces a strict, no-exceptions exclusion zone. North Sentinel is humanity behind museum glass. Only the glass is armed, and the Do Not Touch sign is written in arrows. Area 51. Secrets in the Nevada Dust. If pop culture had a capital city for conspiracy, it would be the nondescript rectangle labeled Groom Lake on declassified maps. Better known as Area 51, the base was born in the Cold War to test the U-2 spy plane, later the A-12, and possibly hardware we still haven't seen. For decades, the US government treated its very existence like urban legend. It finally acknowledged the site in a 2013 CIA dock dump, yet the landing strips remain unmarked, the runways shimmer in mirage, and the signs on the perimeter still read, "Use of deadly force authorized." In 2019, an internet joke, "Storm Area 51, they can't stop all of us," briefly ballooned into a festival-turned flop. What most people forget is that the protest never breached the boundary. Motion sensors, buried microphones, and a quick-response camo dude security force were all on red alert. Whatever the truth is, alien craft, Black Ops drones, or just old hangars stuffed with mundane paperwork, Area 51 remains an unterrible page in the Atlas of Off-Limits. Svalbard Global Seed Vault, the frozen library of life. 300 kilometers beyond the Arctic Circle, on a Norwegian archipelago where polar bears outnumber people, lies a vault carved straight into permafrost. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault guards more than 1 million seed varieties, the DNA of global agriculture. Inside, steel shelves hold vacuum-sealed packets in perpetual darkness at -18 degrees Celsius. The vault's architects designed it to withstand nuclear war, asteroid impact, even sea level rise until well beyond the next ice age. Entry is limited to crop scientists with biometric clearance, and the vault is only unlocked a handful of times each year to deposit new samples. Even Norway's prime minister gets no casual tour. It's humanity's safety deposit box, a botanical Noah's Ark, and like any vault, the fewer who walk its aisles, the safer its cargo. Poveglia Island, Venice's cursed outpost. Less than a mile south of Venice's tourist-choked canals sits a silence so thick it feels deliberate. Poveglia is a 17-acre isle that has seen, according to Venetian folklore, over 160,000 plague deaths across 3 separate epidemics. In 1922, authorities converted the remaining structures into a psychiatric hospital. Legends say a sadistic doctor experimented on lobotomies before throwing himself off the bell tower, driven mad by ghosts. Documented? Not exactly. Persistent? Absolutely. The Italian government closed Poveglia in 1968. Today, the only living things are grapevines, wild rabbits, and, according to local fishermen, the occasional shadow at a boarded window. Permission to land is rarely granted, partly for safety, partly for superstition, wholly for peace of mind. In Venice, you can ride a gondola past centuries of history. On Poveglia, history rides the wind, and no one wants to catch that ride. Lascaux Caves, a masterpiece under quarantine. When 4 teenagers and a dog stumbled into Lascaux Cave in 1940, they unlocked a gallery as vibrant as any Louvre wing, only its artists lived nearly 17,000 years ago. Within 2 decades, daily crowds exhaling CO2 and water vapor triggered a biological siege: white mold, then green algae, then black fungal spots. By 1963, France closed the cave indefinitely. Today, preservation teams enter in pressurized suits for a mere few hours per week, scrubbing microbes with microscopic brushes like surgeons on a 30,000 square foot patient. Ilha de Queimada Grande, Snake Island. Legends claim there's a snake for every step on Ilha de Queimada Grande, a rocky spit of land 25 miles off the Brazilian coast. The star resident is the golden lancehead, both gorgeous and grotesquely lethal. Its venom can cause kidney failure, intestinal bleeding, and brain hemorrhage, all in under an hour. The Brazilian Navy keeps a lighthouse automated and the shoreline posted with danger placards. Academic herpetologists request yearly permits, accompanied by medics with anti-venom that may or may not work fast enough. The island's isolation created an evolutionary pressure cooker. No mammalian predators, plenty of migratory birds, and thus a serpent population that rules unchallenged. Snake Island is a passport stamp you'll never collect, and your blood pressure should thank you. The Korean DMZ, a no-man's land that walks on eggs. Stretching 160 miles across the 38th parallel, the demilitarized zone is an irony wrapped in razor wire. Demilitarized in name, hyper-militarized in practice. The strip is 2.5 kilometers wide, mined with an estimated 2 million explosives, and patrolled by soldiers who stare each other down through binoculars day and night. Even migrating cranes trigger radar alarms. Tourist agencies in Seoul advertise DMZ day trips, but those actually stop far short of the core exclusion area. Visitors remain behind reinforced glass, never beyond the yellow line on the floor of the armistice hut. Beyond the politics, the zone has accidentally become a wildlife refuge, home to rare Amur leopards, musk deer, and possibly the last Siberian tigers in Korea, all living between 2 armies that cannot look away. The DMZ is both ecological miracle and geopolitical tripwire, and humanity watches from the sidelines. Vatican Apostolic Archives, history's locked hallway. Beneath St. Peter's Basilica lies a labyrinth of temperature-controlled vaults housing 53 linear miles of shelving. Papal bulls, Henry VIII's annulment plea, the Galileo trial minutes, all live here, catalogued under the innocuous title Archivum Apostolicum Vaticanum. Despite Dan Brown novels, the secret in the name translates more accurately to private. Scholars can apply for a research pass, but they must request specific folder numbers. No browsing, no leisurely treasure hunts. Only 60 researchers per day are admitted, laptops on silent under watchful Swiss Guard eyes. Fragile parchments rest on velvet cradles, gloves are mandatory, photography is largely banned. In 2020, the archives opened materials up to Pius XII's World War II pontificate, yet rumors of hidden apocrypha, coded prophecies, even extraterrestrial chronicles still pulse through the internet's basement forums. Most secrets are boring paperwork, until you don't get to read them. Chapel of the Tablet, Ethiopia's Ark, Enigma. Ethiopia's Orthodox Church believes that in this very chapel, the Chapel of the Tablet, rests the Ark of the Covenant, the gold-plated chest said to contain Moses' 10 Commandments. Whether it's holy relic or historical myth, Only a single guardian priest may see it. He lives his entire life within the chapel's compound, praying, watching, and never leaving. When he dies, another monk is chosen and the cycle repeats. Attempts by scholars or politicians to verify the ark's existence are politely but firmly declined. There are no photographs, no carbon dating samples, no televised unveilings, just stone walls, iron gates, and faith thicker than mortar. In Axum, belief is the lock, and tradition is the key, both held by a man who will never share either. Mezhgorye, Russia's Phantom City. Deep in the southern Urals lies Mezhgorye, a closed city, meaning Russian citizens need special passes just to enter, and foreign visitors might as well wish upon a comet. The town supports operations around Mount Yamantau, whose 5,125-foot granite bulk allegedly hides a warren of bunkers big enough to shelter the Russian High Command, or store untold tons of gold, or archive priceless art, or if rumor mill is your source, all three. Satellite photos in the 1990s revealed rail spurs disappearing into the mountain. Moscow brushed aside Western questions with phrases like food storage and mining reserve. The vagueness only inflamed curiosity. There are places in this world that defy understanding, lands where the laws of nature break down, where history is swallowed whole, and where silence whispers louder than screams. These aren't just creepy destinations or haunted locales. These are places with deep scars, carved by unexplained vanishings, unrecorded rituals, and phenomena that even the best minds have failed to explain. From deserts that devour signals to mountaintops lost in time, this video explores 5 of the most disturbing and mysterious places on Earth, and why you should never, under any circumstances, set foot in them. Far below the US-Mexico border, in the scorched heart of the Chihuahuan Desert, lies a region so anomalous it rivals the Bermuda Triangle. They call it La Zona del Silencio, the zone of silence. Here, radios fade into static. Satellite signals vanish. Even compasses lose their grip on direction. There are places in this desert where even time feels unsteady. The stories began in the 1970s, when a US missile test from White Sands veered off course and crashed in the zone. What followed was an immediate and highly secretive military recovery mission. The official explanation? A guidance system error. But locals weren't so sure. Witnesses in the area have reported orbs of light that hover silently, then disappear without a trace. Ranchers describe encounters with tall, pale-skinned strangers who appear out of nowhere, dressed in unfamiliar clothing and speaking perfect Spanish, until they vanish. Cactus in the zone grow taller and thicker than anywhere else in the desert. Livestock are sometimes born with deformities. And meteorites seem drawn to the area, crashing down with unusual frequency. Some say it's due to a magnetic anomaly. Others believe it's a portal zone, a thin place between dimensions. But no scientific investigation has fully explained the anomalies. And if someone has solved it, they're not sharing. Just beyond the medieval city of Cluj-Napoca in Romania lies a forest unlike any other. Twisted trees, whispering winds, and a history soaked in paranormal terror. This is Hoya Baciu Forest, often called the Bermuda Triangle of Eastern Europe. Its reputation? Terrifying. Named after a shepherd who vanished in the woods, along with his entire flock, the forest has become a nexus for UFO sightings, poltergeist activity, and ghost encounters. Some even say the forest is alive and doesn't want you to leave. Visitors have reported nausea, skin burns, sudden panic attacks, and hours of missing time. Photographs taken inside frequently show unexplainable shapes, shadows, and human-like figures, even when no one else was present. But perhaps most unnerving is the forest's center, a perfectly circular clearing where nothing grows. Scientists have tested the soil, no toxins, no radiation. But life simply refuses to take root. In 1968, a biologist named Alexandru Sift took a team into the forest to investigate. He documented strange flying objects and inexplicable light formations, photographs which mysteriously disappeared after his death. Since then, multiple teams have entered with drones, thermal cameras, even EEG machines, all left with more questions than answers. Is it a rift in space-time, a buried secret from ancient history, or something far more intelligent, watching us from the shadows? Beneath the glittering lights of Paris, far below the tourists and cafes, lies a city most Parisians would rather forget. A city built of bones. The Paris Catacombs stretch for more than 200 miles beneath the surface. And within those cold, narrow tunnels lie the skeletal remains of over 6 million people, stacked, sorted, and sealed in endless rows of skulls and femurs. Originally created as a solution to overflowing cemeteries in the 18th century, the catacombs became a literal mass grave. The bones were moved by torchlight, often with no identification, creating a surreal and chilling labyrinth. But it's not just the dead who dwell below. Explorers, known as cataphiles, sneak into the forbidden sections of the tunnels. Some never return. Those who do often speak of strange noises, chanting, footsteps, growls, even though they were completely alone. In one infamous case, an abandoned camcorder was discovered deep inside. The footage shows a man wandering the off-limits tunnels, growing increasingly disoriented. His breathing becomes panicked. He drops the camera and runs. His body was never found. Rumors persist of secret rooms, Nazi bunkers, cult altars, and even underground cinemas. Authorities deny anything unusual. The Arctic tundra is no stranger to isolation. But even by northern standards, the 1930 disappearance of an entire Inuit village near Lake Anjikuni remains one of the most baffling cold case mysteries in history. In November 1930, trapper Joe LaBelle arrived at the lakeside community expecting a warm welcome. He had visited before. This time something was wrong. He found no one, not a soul. Cabins were still stocked. Cook fires smoldered. Clothing hung neatly on lines. Meals were half prepared. There were no signs of violence, no mass grave, no trail of footprints, despite fresh snow. It was as if the entire population of 30 or more people had simply evaporated. LaBelle alerted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Some reports say the RCMP arrived and launched an investigation. Over the years, witnesses have come forward saying they saw strange lights in the sky over the lake during that time. Others claim secret government files document something more sinister, something that took the villagers from above. Whether it was mass hysteria, alien abduction, or something from deep within the earth, the truth remains buried beneath layers of ice, silence, and decades of denial. Towering like a floating fortress at the intersection of Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana, Mount Roraima is a 2-billion-year-old tabletop mountain that inspired legends, explorers, and even Hollywood. Its sheer cliffs, rising 1,300 feet straight up, cut it off from the world around it. For centuries, no one could scale its walls. Indigenous tribes believed it was the home of gods and spirits, a sacred place where the world began. But when explorers finally reached the summit, they discovered something even more bizarre than the legends. Plants and animals found nowhere else on Earth thrive in a micro-ecosystem unchanged for millions of years. Carnivorous pitcher plants that digest insects, and possibly more. Sudden fog banks that disorient even expert guides. Rocks that seem to hum, vibrate, or shift without explanation. Technology fares poorly here. GPS fails. Some climbers describe strange dreams while camping on the summit, visions of ancient cities, shadow people, and impossible machinery beneath the ground. It's said that the summit is only the beginning. Beneath Mount Roraima may lie a subterranean chamber, sealed off since prehistoric times. A vault of life, or knowledge, not meant to be disturbed. Each of these places hides a truth, one science has yet to uncover. The zone of silence distorts our understanding of time and space. Hoya Baciu blurs the line between physical and metaphysical. The Paris Catacombs guard their secrets with bone and shadow. Lake Anjikuni's silence speaks of something unspeakable. And Mount Roraima remains a fortress against the passage of time. What really scares us may not be ghosts or legends, but the unknown. The idea that there are places where we are not meant to go and questions we are not meant to ask. Because sometimes, the world is far stranger than fiction.
Radiation is one of the most terrifying threats humanity has ever unleashed upon itself. Not because it's explosive, but because it's invisible, silent, and capable of lingering for centuries in the soil, the air, the water, and even within the human body. Radioactive contamination happens when unstable atomic particles, such as cesium-137, iodine-131 or plutonium-239, are released during nuclear meltdowns, accidents, or weapons tests, spreading deadly energy that continues to decay slowly long after people have fled. Unlike a typical disaster that leaves debris or fire in its wake, radiation leaves behind a poisoned environment that appears deceptively normal, making it all the more dangerous for those who enter unaware. In today's journey, we'll count down 5 of the most radioactive places on Earth, locations so deadly and contaminated that stepping foot inside them without protection could mean irreversible damage or even death. These are not relics of a distant past. They are real, ongoing reminders of how far-reaching and catastrophic human error and ambition can be when combined with nuclear technology. Tucked away on the stormy coast of Cumbria, England, lies Sellafield, a vast and aging nuclear complex that was once at the heart of Britain's atomic ambitions and today is home to some of the most dangerous radioactive material in Europe. Originally known as Windscale, the facility suffered a major disaster in 1957 when a reactor caught fire, releasing radioactive iodine into the atmosphere and contaminating the surrounding countryside and even parts of mainland Europe. Though the full extent of the disaster was hidden from the public for decades, it remains one of the worst nuclear events in Western history, and its consequences still echo through the plant's contaminated buildings and storage sites. Sellafield today stores over 140 tons of plutonium, enough to build thousands of nuclear weapons. And its decaying infrastructure includes leaking waste tanks and radioactive sludge ponds that pose a continual threat to both workers and the environment. Despite massive investments in cleanup and decommissioning, experts estimate that it will take more than 100 years and tens of billions of dollars to render the site safe. And even then, large parts of the facility will remain strictly off-limits to the public. This once top-secret Cold War installation is now a symbol of radioactive legacy. Sealed away behind barbed wire and steel doors, where contamination still seeps silently into the earth and sea. Deep within the remote Ural Mountains of Russia lies a place so dangerous and shrouded in secrecy that most people outside the former Soviet Union have never even heard of it. The Mayak nuclear facility near the town of Kishtim. Built in the late 1940s as part of Stalin's drive for nuclear supremacy, Mayak was one of the most secretive and heavily guarded sites in the Soviet nuclear program, churning out plutonium with little regard for safety or environmental impact. In 1957, a catastrophic accident occurred when a poorly maintained storage tank filled with radioactive waste exploded, sending a radioactive cloud across nearly 20,000 square kilometers of countryside, an area now known ominously as the East Ural Radioactive Trace. Entire villages were quietly evacuated, stripped from maps, and buried under contaminated soil, while thousands of civilians unknowingly lived and worked within the poisoned zone for years without any warning or medical aid. To this day, the area remains one of the most heavily contaminated places on the planet. And while Mayak is still in operation under strict government control, the surrounding land is littered with invisible danger, hotspots that can deliver a lethal dose of radiation in hours. Though the disaster was kept hidden from the world for decades, its impact has been compared to Chernobyl in scale, and its legacy remains locked away behind fences and forbidden forests where the trees still whisper radioactive secrets. Floating like a string of pearls in the turquoise waters of the Pacific Ocean, Bikini Atoll may look like a tropical paradise, but its beauty hides an apocalyptic past that still renders it unsafe for human life. Between 1946 and 1958, the United States conducted 23 nuclear detonations on and around Bikini Atoll, using it as a testing ground for hydrogen bombs that were hundreds of times more powerful than those dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The most infamous test, Castle Bravo, unleashed an unexpectedly massive explosion that created a fireball nearly 4 miles wide and spread radioactive fallout over thousands of square kilometers, including inhabited islands not warned of the danger. Residents of Bikini were relocated with promises they could return within a few years, but repeated contamination, botched cleanups, and radioactive isotopes embedded deep in the coral and soil have kept them away for more than 70 years. Scientists have measured dangerously high levels of cesium-137 in local crops and groundwater, And although some tourists and divers have visited under strict supervision, long-term habitation remains impossible. The ghostly ruins of bunkers, observation towers, and crumbling test vessels now lie half buried in the sand and sea. Silent monuments to the Cold War's radioactive legacy, a paradise that was sacrificed in the name of power and fear. In March 2011, one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded struck the coast of Japan, triggering a devastating tsunami that surged inland and crippled the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, unleashing the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. As walls of water overwhelmed the facility, backup generators failed, cooling systems shut down, and 3 reactor cores melted through their containment vessels, releasing radioactive material into the air, sea, and soil. Entire towns were evacuated in the span of hours, and a 20-kilometer exclusion zone was established around the site, displacing over 150,000 people and transforming once thriving communities into eerie ghost towns swallowed by nature. Inside the zone, buildings have decayed, streets are overtaken by vegetation, and wild animals roam freely where children once played, and families lived out their peaceful routines. Efforts to decontaminate the zone have been extensive, but radioactive particles, particularly cesium, remain embedded in the forests, hills, and even seasonal rainwater, making full recovery nearly impossible in the near future. The plant itself is still being dismantled, a slow and dangerous process expected to last until at least 2050, with areas so radioactive that only specially designed robots can operate inside. Though parts of the exclusion zone have been reopened with intense monitoring, vast regions remain too dangerous for return, leaving behind a fractured legacy of high technology undone by nature's fury and human oversight. At the top of our list lies the most infamous radioactive site on Earth, the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, a haunting expanse of land surrounding the site of the 1986 nuclear disaster that changed the world forever. On April 26, 1986, Reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant exploded during a late-night safety test, releasing a massive amount of radioactive material into the sky that would spread across Europe in the days that followed. The nearby city of Pripyat, built to house the plant's workers and their families, was evacuated in a matter of hours, leaving behind a surreal frozen world of abandoned schools, apartments, amusement parks, and personal belongings that still sit untouched. The area surrounding the reactor, known as the Red Forest, absorbed the brunt of the radiation, instantly killing trees and animals and remaining one of the most radioactive places on the planet to this day. Over 30 years later, the danger hasn't disappeared. In fact, radioactive isotopes like strontium-90 and cesium-137 will remain hazardous for centuries, making many parts of the zone completely unfit for human life. A giant steel sarcophagus now encases the destroyed reactor, a high-tech tomb designed to prevent further leakage. But it's only a temporary measure in a much longer battle to contain what cannot be erased. Though tourists can visit parts of the zone under strict control, large areas remain completely off-limits. And during the 2022 war in Ukraine, fears of renewed contamination resurfaced when troops disturbed radioactive dust in the region. Chernobyl is not just a site of tragedy, it is a symbol of our limits, a place where human hubris collided with atomic power, leaving behind a silent toxic monument to a disaster that still pulses beneath the surface. From isolated islands in the Pacific to snow-covered Russian forests, and from British coastlines to modern Japanese cities, radioactive contamination has scarred the Earth in ways we're still struggling to understand and contain. These forbidden zones are more than cautionary tales. They are living relics of our most dangerous experiments, where science and ambition outpaced caution, and the cost was measured in centuries of fallout. Let us never forget that what we unleash may not always be controlled, and that some places once touched by radiation may never be safe again. If you found this video eye-opening, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more chilling journeys into forbidden places, lost civilizations, and the haunting mysteries of our world.
There are islands, and then there are islands. Places so bizarre, so haunting, or so improbable they defy belief. Some are forgotten relics of human ambition. Others are born from volcanic fire or float freely above a sacred lake. Today we set sail across 5 of the strangest islands on Earth, From the ghostly ruins of a Japanese mining colony to an island, on a lake, on an island, in a lake, on an island. This is a journey into the unusual, the remote, and the utterly fascinating. Welcome to the strange corners of our planet. Just off the coast of Nagasaki lies a crumbling island fortress that once held the densest population on Earth. Locals call it Gunkanjima, Battleship Island, because from a distance it resembles a warship. But its real name is Hashima, and it's nothing short of a concrete ghost town adrift at sea. At its peak in the 1950s, Hashima was home to over 5,000 people packed onto a space the size of just 15 football fields. Why? Coal. The island sat atop a rich undersea mine, and Mitsubishi turned it into a brutal industrial colony. Multi-story apartment blocks rose like bunkers. Schools, shops, even a movie theater, all crammed into this man-made fortress. There were no trees, no soil, just concrete, iron and coal dust. But then came the fall. When oil replaced coal in the 1970s, Hashima was abandoned almost overnight. People left behind furniture, photos, toys, all still sitting there, decaying in the salt air. Today, the island is a silent monument to Japan's rapid industrial rise and collapse. Tourists can visit, but only parts of it. The rest is too unstable, too dangerous. This next island is as beautiful as it is blood-chilling. Welcome to Ramree Island, a tropical paradise on Myanmar's western coast, with a legend soaked in fear. Here, during World War II, something happened that's been whispered about ever since. In 1945, British forces clashed with Japanese soldiers here in a brutal jungle battle. When the Japanese tried to retreat through the island's mangrove swamps, something terrible awaited them. Saltwater crocodiles, thousands of them. Eyewitnesses, including British troops, claimed the crocs tore through the swamp like a biblical plague. One survivor called it the most horrible night any soldier ever experienced. The Guinness Book of World Records once called it the deadliest crocodile attack in recorded history, estimating hundreds of Japanese soldiers were killed not by bullets, but by reptilian jaws. Some historians dispute the numbers, but one thing is certain: the waters of Ramree Island are not welcoming. And even today, few dare to explore its swampy depths. Now we enter a realm where geography plays tricks on the mind. Behold Vulcan Point, an island on a lake, on an island in a lake, on an island. Let's break it down. Vulcan Point is a small island. It sits inside Main Crater Lake. That lake sits on Taal Volcano Island. Taal Volcano Island is in Lake Taal. And Lake Taal is on the island of Luzon, the largest in the Philippines. It's a matryoshka doll of land and water, a real-life geographical riddle. But Vulcan Point isn't just a curiosity. It sits atop a living volcano. Taal is one of the most active in the Philippines, erupting more than 30 times in recorded history. Its last major eruption in 2020 sent ash 9 miles into the sky, forcing thousands to evacuate. Vulcan Point itself is quiet now. But beneath the waters, pressure builds. This is one of the few islands that could vanish, or violently be reborn, in an instant. Next, we sail to the bottom of the world, to a place so remote, the nearest help is over 500 miles away. This is the Antipodes Islands, a sub-Antarctic cluster owned by New Zealand and visited only by scientists and shipwrecks. The weather here is vicious. Freezing winds, violent waves, and fog that swallows ships whole. In 1908, the President Felix IV, a French bark, ran aground here. The survivors, stranded on an island with no trees, built huts from driftwood and seaweed. They carved out a miserable, wind-blown existence, waiting for rescue that didn't come for over 2 months. And they were lucky. Earlier castaways in 1893 weren't so fortunate. Stranded after the wreck of the Spirit of the Dawn, some men died of exposure, others from starvation. Today, the Antipodes are a protected nature reserve. Albatrosses nest here. Seals bark from the rocks. But no one lives here, and no one ever will. It's a place where Earth reminds us how small we really are. Our final stop takes us to the roof of South America, Lake Titicaca, one of the highest navigable lakes on the planet. Here, a people live not on land but on floating islands. These are the Euros, descendants of an ancient culture who've built their entire world atop floating platforms made from totora reeds. The islands are living structures. They rot from below and must be replenished weekly with fresh layers. They're moored with ropes and sticks, but if danger ever came, they could be cut loose and floated to safety. The islands hold homes, schools, even solar panels today. Yet the construction remains deeply traditional, a lifestyle that blends survival with ingenuity. Why did the Euros choose this way of life? Legend says they fled from Inca warriors long ago and turned to the lake for refuge. Instead of fighting, they floated, resilient, peaceful. From concrete ruins in Japan to floating homes in Peru, these islands remind us that Earth is far stranger than we imagine. Some are warnings, others wonders. Each tells a story of survival, creativity, and the shifting line between nature and mankind. So the next time you look at a map, remember, the most remote places are often the most revealing. Because on these strange islands the world becomes unfamiliar, and in that mystery,